Gaming NBS episode 233, recorded Monday, March 11th, 2019. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. This is Sean.
And this is Brett. Hey, folks. Glad you're here. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Brett. How are you?
Should have taken today off, but I'm bizarrely glad I went back to the office directly after Game Hole. Good Lord. Thinking next con, after Gary Con, simply so I could get back on top of some things. A few hundred emails in a hole, but I dug out of most of it. So
I haven't even checked my personal email, and I think I'm supposed to meet a client tomorrow morning, and I don't know where.
You should look.
I know.
Well, if you respond to your personal emails the same way you respond to texts I send you, you will respond to them about 2-3 days after the fact.
Yeah, messaging has got me down. Too much, man. Too many bad.
Yeah.
More good, I should say. Too many bad things. I need more good things.
Yeah. So speaking of good things, how did Gary Con treat you? I mean, we were there together.
Things.
Obviously, we weren't there like hand in hand. We had plenty of opportunities to do
along.
lots of stuff. What were your highlights, man?
Oh, I gotta hand it to Corey Welch, Forrest Gary, Trevor, Jen. I know I'm missing some other folks, but all the individuals involved with running Gatsby and the Great Race, Call of Cthulhu, multi-table, 30-person event. I think it was I don't know if it was that many this time around, but there was at least 4 or 5 tables at 6 people per table, for sure. And it was a very good event. I was so impacted by that event.
Yes.
That I bought the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition.
Did you really?
Yeah. I did.
That's
on
awesome.
Sunday. Yeah.
That is awesome.
And I told Corey that I would make as much effort as I possibly could to ensure that all his tables are always filled for that event, because it was done really well. And if you get the opportunity to play in that event, I highly suggest that you do so. I don't know how others run it, but I know if Corey's behind the wheel. He does it at Gary Con and Game Hole Con. I don't know if he does it at others, and I offered to run.
Really?
I said I would run a table.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's cool. I've come to learn that I think that's more my game. I like the role playing.
Are you serious?
Trevor, well, see, I grew up never understanding why people liked Call of Cthulhu. I never got into it, never interested me. I never read any
You and I have
Lovecraft.
talked about that a little bit. We're like, So this is like a big reveal for you. That's kind of cool.
Well, it was a good event because, I mean, the premise is Gatsby is having a party, and you go there to party. And there's, on the back of your character sheet, a couple notes on the relationships of the people that you're there. And I happen to have a character I only had one relationship, and that was to my fiance, who was there, and she knew Gatsby and Gatsby's cousin.
And then things got crazy.
And then all the other people were just, I may know that other guy, and then stuff got crazy. Yeah.
But you like the role-playing part of it more so than the search for traps type of thing?
I did, yeah. And I've always kind of wanted to do that. I find that when I have been involved with Cthulhu games, even if the players are not thespians, and I define that as, full-fledged immersion, speaking in different voices, stuff like that.
Well, when I ran Trail for you guys,
yeah,
that it wasn't like a huge thespian group. I mean, Wayne Humfleet and Kevin and James, they weren't like huge, oh my God, speaking in voices type of thing. It wasn't that way.
Yeah, so I find it, though, that there is more role-playing.
Well, good.
And especially if you are at a party like the Gatsby's hold, you have to interact. And the thing is that Trevor was a really good, and my understanding from Dave Wynn, who is also in my game, and put me up with him and his brother and Brett, he said that that was Trevor's first con game he ever ran.
Wow. That's a hell of a way to break into that.
Yeah. And so
pretty intense.
Yeah, and he did a super awesome game. He's kind of, and Dave's like, you know who he sounds like? He sounds like Norm Macdonald. And I'm like, that's it. That's where I couldn't, like, I'm like, where do I hear that voice before? So he's got kind of a Norm Macdonald voice. It was hilarious. I'm like, yes, nailed it, Dave. But a really
awesome.
nice guy. And he, you know, he always tried to stay in character. Like, even if you said, hey, player GM, do I see this? Or, hey, can I move this? Or I draw a line here. And he's like, he just kind of tried to play it off, like, without answering. He's like, okay, so you draw a line. Great. But every time he would always answer, like, in character most of the times.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And it was the quickest 6-hour game I've ever been in.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It went by super fast. So now I thought it was good.
Well, that's good. Kevin will be happy to hear you like it.
Yeah. He played in it, didn't he? Or did he?
I don't know if he's played in it, but Kevin's been a Cthulhu fan forever.
Right.
I like to feel that maybe I whet your appetite for it with my trail game, but you may have completely forgotten that by now.
No, that's true. And that was very good, Brad. Don't get me wrong.
No. It's two different things, right?
Yes.
That is mine was more of a usual, hey, this is Cthulhu type of thing, and yours was a big con extravaganza type experience. So yeah, cool. Very nice.
Yeah, it was quite a bit different, but yeah, it was good. It was good. And I probably will delve into that a little bit. We'll see.
Well, good. Congrats to you, man.
Yeah, but otherwise, 5e game and Alex Kammer's 5e game. And then I had to miss Thursday. My wife got sick, so I had to show up a day late. Missing Gaslands, which I was really wanting to play, which was pretty prevalent. I had talked to a few people that had played, got an opportunity to play there, so it wasn't.
There was at least one or two off-grid Gaslands games going on, dude. I was asked, "Hey, where's Sean?"
Yeah,
Hobbs came up to me and goes, Sean wants to play. I said, no, he's got a Gatsby thing going.
Yeah, and it was right during the Gatsby race game. And so, yeah, Gaslands, if you don't know what that is modern day Car Wars, in my opinion. You play with Matchbox cars, you hack them all up, and then you could do races or just do combat. But it's all templates and gear, speed, and, checks so you don't skid out. But everybody I talked to that played it loved it. And then the other one I had to miss was Forrest Aguirre's DCC game, which Bruce Cunnington was in, and I think he was in that, and I couldn't make that one. So
Bruce was in that one, if I remember correctly.
That was that was my event extravaganza while I was there.
There was a lot of just Sean and I we're going to say names, and we're going to miss a bunch of you that we ran into. Because there was just a ton of really cool people there.
I didn't wear my chest camera. Like, that's the best way to do it. Like, just a chest camera that takes pictures every 5 seconds.
I got halfway into Friday and went, you know what? I should have just taken selfies with everybody I met. That probably would have been a good way to check. But I forgot. Anyway, so Bruce Cunnington came back from the UK. He was here last year, so seeing him again was really cool. Got to just talk gaming with him and so forth. Bruce's birthday was this weekend, and Dave Beatty and the crew, the DCC folks, pulled together, got a birthday cake for him. We got most of the bar to sing happy birthday to Bruce. That was kind of fun. It was cool to be part of that when I was there. I ran Blacksmith's Folly, which is one of my Avalon adventures. It's going to be as a stretch goal as part of the Kickstarter, and I wanted to bang out a couple components of it as I started to write it out. I'm like, I wonder if this will work. And Ray Otis had said, hey, last year he had played an Avalon game with AJ. He actually played Iron Shoes, and he said, hey, if AJ's going to be there, I'd like to do it again. Well, Susan, my wonderful wife, brought both my kids, and both of them, AJ and Alana, sat down and played with Ray and his buddy Cody. It was really, really cool. Cody's a good all-around guy too. And we went through that adventure, and that was a lot of fun. My little 10-year-old daughter, at one point, when she found out that the main bad person, this lady, had swallowed the key that they needed to get out, Ilana's first thought was, well, I guess we're going to have to kill her and gut her.
Wow.
And I looked, and Ray looks at me, God bless me, goes, apple tree. That was my 10-year-old daughter's first thought. Anyway,
Nice.
Another cool thing I got to do was Studio 66. Cosmo Joe and those folks. He's been working for a number of years now on a a actual like dungeon feeling dungeon crawl, live action type of thing. I would say it's a cross between a LARP and True Dungeon. It is entertaining. He had a very small taste of it. He was able to bring and set up at the con, and I got a chance to go through that with my 2 kids, and it was fun. It was exciting, and it was a good time. So props to Cosmo and that crew because they pulled it off. It was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that I can get to the big event, or if he can set up something even bigger and cooler at GameholeCon this next year, that'd be pretty cool too.
His fiance was very pleasant to me.
Oh, yes.
GaryCon. Very nice to see her again.
I did give her crap. I said, you busted Sean's balls pretty hard last time. She goes, yeah, I did. But that's because I like you guys.
Yeah.
I said, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Crying out loud, I bought stuff. Dave Beatty had gotten in on the Wraith 20th anniversary Kickstarter and had an extra copy. So I bought one of those off of him, which I've yet to unpull from the shrink. I've just been looking at it lovingly. I did buy Borrow Maze and I got Mr. Gillespie to sign it for me because he happened to be there, of course. On Hobbs' recommendation, I was looking for a mega dungeon that wasn't too mega-y. Rapanathok is just so massive. I was really tempted, but I'm like, Borrow Maze. I started parsing through it. I did crack that sucker open, started reading it, and I'm very, very pleased with it. And, of course, I gave Jeff Delanian from Astonishing Swordsman Sorcerers of Hyperborea some more of my money. Bought a copy of the Player's Guide, T-shirt again, some other goodness. But it was fun. And then get to take my kids around on Saturday and introduce them to people and have them buy stuff because they love to do that. It was AJ's birthday, so his birthday, is in April. So Susan and I were able to snag a bunch of stuff and put it aside for him. So that was kind of fun. Yeah. Other than that, I think all around, GaryCon had its usual, what the fuck are they doing organizationally speaking? But it's just become part of its charm. Oh, I met Joe Manganiello like about that long. Bought a Death Save t-shirt off the guy. He's a tall dude. I'm 6'3", and his shoulders are like up on my ears. He's a tall man. Then he almost ran me over when he had to pee. I was sitting in the hallway talking to Kojo, and he comes busting by and almost stomped on me. It was funny as hell. He kind of gave me a sorry as he went by, and then he quickly darted into the bathroom. So I'm like, oh, he must have to pee really bad, which I just thought was funny.
So I'm gonna rant. I'm gonna turn on the rant switch quick.
All right, I'm gonna mute this. Go ahead. I'll probably run a vacuum and clean my room.
That's fine. It'll be relatively brief, but GameCon organizers, if you're gonna have guests at a GameCon, and they're not going to be accessible to the people that are attending, please do not make them guess. Just let them come to your con, invite them to your con, and that's it.
Like Matt Mercer was at GaryCon.
Right. Matt Mercer was there. Nobody knew he was going to be there. He wasn't. Oh, pardon me. He was not on the guest list.
Correct.
So great. He's just a guy.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. GameholeCon, and I know there's probably a few others that kind of make it a thing, or they don't make it a thing, but it's just something that the guests do, maybe because of that con, or it's an unwritten rule. But I think if you're going to have guests to lure people to your event, it only makes sense to make it a policy, especially if you're paying for them to come to your con, that they should be accessible. And how you define that is really up to your con. So if it's running a game, or they're behind a table, or they're going to sign autographs of their pictures or their books or whatever it is, great. It could be one of those or all of them. But if you're just going to put them on the list and then they're going to hold themselves up in a room the entire weekend, and you're going to see them pass from their hotel room to a conference room,
or to an event which is behind closed doors you don't have access to.
To an event that is behind closed doors that you are not privy to attend.
Correct.
As a spectator or a player.
Correct.
Don't put them on the guest list. Okay? That's all I'm asking.
No, I fully support that, man. I've had EverCon is obviously much, much smaller than both of these cons. 1,000 people. It's not huge. But when we had Ken Haidt up, I talked to Ken. He's like, what do you want me to do? They ask this stuff. Ken has asked me, when Dave McGarry comes down, and when Alex is up, he's like, "What do you need me to do?" "I need you to run some games." "Sounds good," says Alex. "I'll do that." "Hey," Dave said, "I'll run dungeon, whatever." But every one we've had has always asked, "What can I do?" Because that's what they're there for. Now, those people are in the gaming industry and not necessarily the entertainment, I should say the gaming hobby industry, not necessarily in the entertainment industry like a Joe or somebody else who's making a fuck ton more money than you or I are, Sean. But yeah, I agree with you. It's disappointing when you're like, "Oh, so-and-so famous individual is here. Have you seen that famous individual?" Nope. I can bump into somebody who happened to get lucky enough that they saw said individual, but that's about it. Or I happen to catch this person between X, Y, and Z. It's kind of frustrating. You feel like as a con attendee that you're missing out, or that you didn't know, or that, oh, should I have, is there an event? Is there something I could have gone to kind of hang out or do something? So yeah, I get where you're going, man. It's kind of a bummer.
Now, to be fair, there were plenty of guests at GaryCon that I know that were accessible and that do run games. I can look at the list. Or if they didn't run a game, they were in the dealer hall as a dealer. You could just go up and talk to him. I know Steven Chanel is always there. He's very approachable.
Larry Elmore, hell, he and I and a couple other guys, we talked Dragonlance and art for an hour and a half in the bar because he's just there. And if he's there and you get Larry talking, you can't stop Larry from talking.
But anyway. And I don't think he was a guest.
No, he got a Lifetime Achievement Award, but he's just a famous artist.
Yes,
who's there at his booth. Jeff Easley at his booth.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the list. If I'm looking at the website right now, he wasn't even on there. But there are some that are on there that I know, that, I mean, I will be also fair to say that I haven't looked up every guest to see if they ran a game. But I'm pretty certain, I know Joe didn't, and he's a guest. I know that for a fact.
Correct.
But Joe was nice enough. Like, Brett got his picture with him.
Friendly dude. I mean, when he was in the room, talked to him, "Hey, cool, can I get a picture?" "Yeah, of course, man. Come on over here." He was just, "Hey, how's it going? What are you playing? Sounds good." Blah blah blah. It's just, yeah. I think some of it is and I do not know Luke Gygax and the rest of the board and the other people, so I'm not gonna. This is not them, but I think it is very easy when you have somebody really cool coming to your convention to make it all about you as a convention organizer or your very specific friends or whatever it is, so that there's a very small subset of people that have this amazing access and everybody else who's paid for the convention don't get it. Like it's probably very, very tempting. And I think as a con organizer, you need to not do that. But anyway, shall we? You good?
I am good.
All right. AwesomeDice.com. We're still doing the 15% off on any order of $10 or more using the Gaming BS code at checkout. Yes. Am I correct? Awesome. Yep. Very, very cool.
Yes. So sign up for our 3CR email, be entered to do that and win a free set of dice.
Yeah. Very cool. I don't think I have any other announcements. Sean, you got anything cooking?
I do not. No.
Okay. So again, last piece is that Sean and I try not to name tons and tons of names because I know we're going to miss somebody, but I was stopped by 3 different people who very quickly caught me in the hall walking from one place to another, said, "You're Brett from Gaming BS." "Yes, I listen to your show and I love it." Shook my hand. And I said, "Thank you, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so." They showed me their badge. I saw who they were. And I did not write everything down. I should have taken pictures. I should have done a better job of that. But Sean and I both greatly appreciate every one of you who take the time to stop us. And when you see us at a convention, shake our hand or even just say hi and tell us that you listen to us. It's really, really cool, very humbling and amazing. So thank you all very much for doing that and taking the time out of your incredibly busy con that you paid for to hang out just to talk to 2 schmucks like us. That's pretty cool.
All right, now I have to eat crow.
Yeah?
Because Joe did have an event.
Did he?
He did have an event called D&D with Joe Manganiello.
Oh,
Manganiello. Yeah. He had it on Friday at 10 a.m. for 4 hours. And there was 6 people.
Was that the Oh, he had a Dragonlance game. He's a big Dragonlance fan.
Yeah, he is. So he chance to see how he runs his game from behind the DM screen. Pre-gens provided. Yep, he had an event. So I stand corrected. I was wrong. And it was, I think, featured event, and that was it. So 40 people on the waiting list. So that was, I think he ran, I can't tell if there was more in, but so there you go. My fault, my bad. Regardless, it should be a good policy, because I know there's some cons that don't do that.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of conventions where people are allowed to go hide in their hotel and then pop out for their event and then quickly zip away. So
I made a mistake. There you go. It's recorded forever in history. There, Sean made a mistake.
You'll edit that out.
I'll edit that out later.
All right, let's move on to random encounter.
All right. Random encounter, if you're new here, is where we field emails, voicemails, and comments from social media.
So let's see who's up here first. Matt V comments on, do GMs make good players? I asked, as asked, here's clarification on zones and range bands the way I understand them. So range bands are a measure of how far everyone is from each other. It's usually something like engaged, short, medium, long, and extreme. Games that use this I can think of are FFG Star Wars and 13th Age. Cypher system seems almost like a cross between range bands and zones. It sounds simple, but it seems to get excessively complicated in my opinion, unless there's something I'm missing. Like even this simple example. Excuse me. You have two rangers and two orcs. They are at extreme range from each other and engaged range with each other. One ranger moves at 45 degrees while the other moves up in a straight line. Each orc moves at 45-degree angles to the opposite sides. Now, the orcs are short from each other, as are the rangers, but note they are still different distances, but both short. Even though they are different distances from each other, and now one ranger is medium range from one orc and long from the other, while the other is long range from one and still extreme range from the other. In one turn of movement, it's already gotten quite convoluted with just 4 characters, at least for me. That's very difficult to follow. I know some people love range bands, but I don't see how you track that over the course of a combat. But at this point, it's hard for me to see how a battle map isn't faster and easier. Zones break the battlefield into zones where the characters stand. I've seen a few variations, but overall the GM just sets where these are somewhat arbitrarily. Apocalypse World, I don't think it extends to all power by the Apocalypse systems, however, and Fate both use zones. Each zone is ranged incrementally. So an adjacent zone is short, 2 zones away could be medium, etc. Everyone is on the same zone is generally considered engaged. Usually there is a method to move between zones or more than one zone each round. It's straightforward and doesn't require the precision of a battle map and drops the problems that... Oh, what the hell does that acronym stand for? TOTM. I don't know. Often causes... Oh, wait. No idea. Sorry, I'm losing the acronym there. Anyway, it does have some issues for some players. You know, why can't I just stand on the edge of the zone and attack into that zone? Sometimes other issues I see our zones won't be precise, so very tactical players may not like them. Since it's arbitrary, zone A may be too big, zone B too small. I don't think this will be an issue for too many players. It's part of fiction. But Savage Worlds and Pathfinder players who haven't ventured out may have issues with it. But it's quick to draw out and place many zones can be done real easy. And just a quick draw on a sheet of paper or even without it if you want. A simple example is a warehouse that can be front, back, stairs going up in the top level. You could attach an aspect or condition to a zone, whether a spell or natural conditions, and tangled, dark, difficult terrain, etc. If a player wanted to cultivate stuff like dump barrels of oil and or light them on fire, you just aspect that zone. It helps a lot with creative players where maybe in a game like D&D it's difficult to figure out what exactly that affects and where, and why would an enemy run through the oil anyway to get on a grid. Why run through the enemy on a grid? It's also more of a burden to avoid and possibly impossible with zones. It doesn't get complicated in the way that a battle map or range zones can get. Zones and range bands also help a lot if flight and other vertical forms of movement get used, which are extremely difficult to track via battle map precision. As a caveat, I have pretty limited experience with both of these methods. I use them roughly a half dozen times each, so there could be a lot I'm missing with either method. Nearly all my 23 years God, I'm old now. Have been Battle Map. That said, I still find myself Theater of the Mind. TOTM, Theater of the Mind. Good Lord, got it now. Battle Map or Theater of the Mind. That said, I still find myself very enamored with zones, and they seem to be a great blend of all the methods. All right, thanks again, guys. Good stuff. Happy BSing. I think a lot of times when it comes to this type of thing, Sean, it's practice. You've got to do it. You got to do it. I've said this about Savage Worlds and other systems that I at first try. I'm like, I don't know if I like it. It's always worth giving something. If you do it once and you didn't like it, you should try it again, because some of these things just take practice. If you like aspects of it, aspect of a game system, but you're having trouble with the zones or the ranges or Theater of the Mind or whatever, just keep trying it. Give it a good college try. Give it a few goes and see how it works for you. So anyway, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate you writing back in. Sean, over to you, sir.
Peter Skeens has a topic suggestion. It's something that had bothered me for a while with 5e is inspiration. I don't think it did what the designers intended and isn't played anywhere like they thought it would. This made me think meta currencies have become a staple in our hobby. Some work, some don't, but an overview might make a good episode.
Interesting. So meta currency is not like that, but that makes me think of bennies and that type of thing too. It's a currency in the game that you need to keep flowing. At least in Savage Worlds, you need that benny currency moving.
Yeah, and that's like with Destiny points or
meta currencies. Mr. Skeens, you brilliant, brilliant person. All right, cool. All right, in the hopper.
Now we have some voicemails from Chris Schorb, no stranger to the show. He has yes, we'll just play him here. All right, here we go.
Hey, Brett and Sean, Chris Schorb here, calling from the sunny climes of Santa Barbara, California. The recent episode, I'm just responding to Monger's question about, so there's a recent episode you guys had about do GMs make a good player? And in your random encounter, Monger sent in an email asking about Gumshoe, something I've been curious about. Would love to hear if either of you guys have played Ashen Stars. That's the Gumshoe setting that appeals to me the most. But the follow-up was that topic about best games to start with to learn a new system. And I would be really interested to hear about Fate, what you guys think is the best, if you guys have any experience with that. Powered by the Apocalypse is another one. And then, yeah, those are kind of the two big ones. I mean, I started Powered by the Apocalypse with Dungeon World, so I'm wondering if you guys have a different experience. And then one more point I wanted to make about intro games. I am getting ready to run the Lost Mines at Phandelver. That's the adventure that comes in the D&D 5th edition starter box set. And I just finished my read-through last night. It is an excellent module and an excellent adventure to introduce players to 5e, which is good because I'm playing a game with a bunch of people who haven't played 5e, and so I'm looking forward to running them through it. There's a bunch of RP, there's a bunch of kind of a little bit of hex crawly stuff, and then there's, of course, multiple dungeons. And in fact, and no, I'm not going to give a spoiler, but I will say it's a great starting adventure. On that episode about do GMs make great players, and I finally finished the main topic, listening to it, and great episode as always. And right at the end, you kind of touched on the GMs and the rules. And I just wanted to call out one of the people I play with. His name is Dustin, and he's a player in our group. And our GM actually restarted GMing with 4th edition. And so sometimes we're playing 5e, but sometimes he kind of leans on the 4th edition rulings. And so, but Dustin, who has GM'd a lot more than our GM, because he's got a weekly group, and our group's kind of more like a monthly group. And so, but Dustin, he just sits back, and when they do have a conversation about the rules, Dustin states his case, and then but then if our GM is like, no, this is the way I'm ruling it, Dustin says, you know what, cool, that's no problem, and he gets right back into playing. So that's the kind of grace that I would expect of any GM who's playing at someone else's table. So I just wanted to share that story. As always, keep it up, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
So some game suggestions and Lost Mine of Phandelver and calling a shot by GM.
Apart from the name Phandelver, heard nothing bad about that campaign or that module or whatever you want to call it. I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, it's a good starter module. Yeah, I would say it's a staple that has come of a 5e for sure.
AJ used it in a small campaign for Ilana and I, just a very tiny version of it. I gave him some pointers how to kind of tighten things up and not make it too crazy. We had a couple of characters apiece, and no, it was fun. It was a heck of a good time, and he had plenty of different things to work with and so on. I think the what Chris was mentioning about the game master type approach, that's how I always talk about my buddy Alpha. He's like the world's best rules lawyer, the type you like, who's really good at the rules, understands things, has a point of view, states point. Okay, cool. You're going to go a different direction. Fair enough. Let's move. We're not going to just sit here and fuck about trying to figure out which particular rule we're going to, argue over for the next half hour. Get it done and move it on. Sean, any thought from you on anything Chris said?
No.
Okay.
But the Fate has always been on the radar. Was trying to coordinate with Chris Phil from Misdirected Mark to see if he'd want to come on and talk about Fate, but schedules are difficult to align.
Have you ever played Fate? I only played Fate Accelerated.
Fate Accelerated is the extent of my Fate experience, and it was one time at Gary Con, and I think it was Hans Cummings that ran it. And
Accelerated and regular Fate,
quite a bit of difference.
Very different from what I've been told. Anywho, cool. We'll have to. Those are one of those pieces, much like Dungeon Crawl Classics when we had Jen Brinkman on the show back then. That was just awesome.
Yeah.
The Dungeon Crawl Classics might be, one of the things people have mentioned to us before we talked about this, and this is definitely another topic idea, Sean, is pick a game and what it takes to get into said game. Right? People will say, oh, what? There was a game that a guy pitched me at Gary Con. He was talking about it, and quick aside here, folks, and he went through this thing, and I went, wow, this sounds kind of interesting. He had some problems with his pitch, but I just went, whatever. He's a volunteer. He's doing his best. And I looked at the game and went, I think I'm going to be $100 in here in order to get this game started, between a core rule book plus this to really get into it. Oh my God, $100. And I walked away and I thought about it for the next couple of days. I'm like, I probably could get away with less, but based on how I was pitched the game, I'm like, man, I feel like if I did do with less, I would be losing out on probably game experience. So I think that's one of those cases where I know the name of the game. I'm going to talk to somebody I know. Austin has your friend of mine, Sean. Austin has this game. Or ask him what he likes about it from just the core rules. What can you do with it? Is it enough? And blah blah blah. So I think sometimes talking to people who understand a game and what it takes to get into it is more helpful than sometimes the the game developer or even their lackey trying to pitch you the thing, at a con. So anyway, just another idea.
Well, and that does trigger something that I ran into at Gary Con when we were talking about. I was talking to Tim Deshane. Tim is a guy out of Rhode Island. He runs a lot of Dungeon Crawl Classics,
Astonishing Swordsman, First E stuff.
Yep.
He's good. Tim's an awesome dude, by the way.
So
nice guy.
Tim has told me, he's like, he's not an actual play guy. He doesn't watch actual plays. Some of us are not actual play connoisseurs. We don't consume them a lot. And so he was thinking though that, I don't know if another friend had proposed it to him, but there was talks of him potentially running an actual play. So for folks that may not be fans of actual play, but actually running because somebody else could appreciate it. So we started talking about that, and then Chad Parrish walked up. So Chad Parrish does the Dead Game Society podcast, and he used to do one that was called RPG School, I think it was.
RPG School, I think so, yeah.
And that was with Satine Phoenix. So if you don't know who Satine is, she works for Wizards of the Coast right as of this recording, and she started a pod, or was a co-host with Chad. And what they would do is they would get a game designer on the show with their game, and they would walk them through kind of literally like a 10 to 20 minute segment of the game. So it wasn't a actual play, but it kind of was. It was like a 20-minute actual play.
Yeah. What does a combat feel like? What does this feel like? How do you do this?
Yeah. So he or she would walk them through that a little bit more as a kind of tutorial, but at the same time still running the game. So it's as if you were to sit down and go, look, I don't know this game, but I want to play it. And then the designer running it to people that have never played. So kind of an initiation. I don't know. That's not really the right word, but
what's a taste? Like it's an hors d'oeuvre. How do I, you know, how's this going to work? Gotcha.
And so Tim brought it up. It's like, that was a good format because he and I, part of the discussion was how much do you incorporate the rules into an actual play and how much do you get so far away from it becomes a radio drama, right? So
Christine, Zach, and I, and the crew for the Wednesday evening group, we had that discussion, try to talk about the rules to a point. But the other thing that's interesting is that how I'm running that is how I run games. And I don't often break in the middle of a game and say, oh, by the way, I'm using this rule. But it's not, the purpose of that was to entertain and introduce a setting,
right,
and get people to understand it and so on. It was not to teach you how 5e worked.
It'd be interesting.
So I think that's, I think an actual play, if your charter is to teach people the game, that's a totally different approach than to solely entertain people.
So I would be interested in putting up a poll, which I may do. We'll see. We'll announce it on Twitter, Facebook. But I would be interested to see how many people, one, if you do like actual play, or if there is an interest in actual play, or you are turned off by actual play, what your preference would be if there was an actual play. So if there was a scale of, hey, explain all the rules as you come across them and include die rolls. And then the opposite end of that scale being all radio drama, which means there's no meta talk, everybody's speaking in character. It's as if it was a, novel with people narrating their own parts,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody would want, where they would fall.
I have been told that our format, when we had the Savage Worlds discussion, DCC, and what the hell was the other one we did? Oh, we've had a couple of those, and even like Cold Shadows that you and I did. Oh, and the Cypher system, we talked about that people like that because of that approach for this is what the game is all about. So I don't know if, as a reminder for folks, I don't know if Parrish's old podcasts are still out there, that game school approach, but I know those. Not to make you go back to our back catalog, but if you grab those, like the Savage Worlds one and the Dungeon Crawl Classics, and is that helpful? Was that format? I think kind of goes to what you're talking about, Sean, a little bit. Just if somebody's like, I don't know what that would sound like. Well, that's an example of what it could sound like.
Well, that, and also you run the game and then you have a supplementary either addition into the recording. That's like I even mentioned maybe it's the director's cut, where the people interject and pause the game to explain why a particular ruling went.
It's like watching the movie with comments or not.
Yeah, kind of.
Rat goes, yeah, boy, in this scene I was drunk off my ass. Can't
Yes.
believe it didn't break my neck falling off that horse.
Right.
That type of thing.
Yeah, or doing it that way. I was always curious because I'm not sure if I don't think there's a wrong answer. There's no way, but I'm just curious, the masses. I mean, obviously Critical Role is who they are.
Well, guess what would be interesting is not only just what do people like, but then examples thereof. I like this actual play because it does it the way I like it.
Right.
Those examples would be great because I learned that there is a J.R.R. Tolkien, Middle-earth, like The Prancing Pony, apparently it's a podcast that is supposed to be just exquisite when it comes to delving into the history and the mythology and everything around it. I had no idea that podcast even existed. I didn't even think to look through podcasts for Tolkien, Middle-earth stuff. And I love that shit. I'm like, fuck, why wasn't I looking for that? So, yeah, that's another good, this type of poll could draw that out too. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Yeah. We shall see.
Stuff.
Yeah. Let us know about the actual plays, though. If you want to write in about anything about Random Encounter this week, I'd be interested to know actual plays, why you like them, and what is the balance of mechanics to radio drama, and the sound quality. There was also talks of inside jokes and laughter and being kind of the outsider looking in and not, I don't get that, but and then try to keep those out and stuff. So anyways,
Cool.
I think that's it. Yeah, let's get in the random or main topic. All right.
So we want to flip the script a bit and talk about players turning into game masters. When the moon is full at that certain time of year, when they kind of lose their shit and decide that they know what they're doing, which we know is a bad idea. But we're gonna pretend.
No. We got to encourage people to game master more.
Absolutely,
We can't scare them away.
And I think so, Sean.
We got to toughen them up. We do got to toughen them up.
So when someone asks you, "Hey, do players make good game masters?" Do you have a gut reaction to that question? Like, fuck no, or yeah, sure, or but only if.
No, there isn't any answer, because I think some players will make exceptional game masters, and I think some players will make the shittiest of game masters. And I don't think it would be completely absurd of me to say that it's a blanket statement. I think it's just like people. There's assholes. Yeah, it depends. There's nice people and there's bad people, and there's bad people of this race and good people of that race, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, my perspective when I hear do players make good game masters, my thought is I go right to Sean. I'm like, it depends. Do they want to, and so forth. So let's talk about this a little bit. So have you seen issues of the transition from player to game master? You yourself, when you went from player to game master, or have you seen other people struggle with something? Is there a piece like, yes, if someone were to stop you at a con and say, what are 3 things I shouldn't do, or I should keep track of? Have you seen any common pitfalls over your years?
So I don't get a chance to play in games with a lot of first-time game masters that I know of. I think I've ran into people that have been like, this is my first con game I've run, but maybe not the first time they've ever run. Well, and I can't say that for sure. I might have come to the conclusion after the fact, but it slips my mind, and it's very rare. But I think the biggest hang up is probably before they hit the table, which is, I'm afraid to game master.
Oh, the fear of rejection, failure, that.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't never done it.
I don't mean to make light of
no.
that old fear, but that is it's the fear of speaking in public.
Yeah.
Because if you have 4 people, 6 people, 3 people, 2 people, 1 person looking at you, you're in charge now. What's your decision?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So I think, but I mean, so I can't speak to, okay, I've played in a lot of first round, first event by a first time game master, and they always tend to do X or Y, and this is how they could fix that. So I would maybe sometimes maybe it's over planning. Rules knowledge could come into play, but I guess this would be one. Rules knowledge. And I don't mean that they should know the rules better or know the rules. Yeah. I don't think it's about knowing the rules more, but I think they get caught up with, if somebody at the table brings up a rule and they aren't confident enough to say, either to look it up or have the person look it up and then follow the rule, or just say, yep, nope, that's great. We'll just go with it because I don't want to hang things up. I think
there's a
caught
fear
in the
of
quagmire. Like there's
a fear that the game master should be omniscient and know all of it.
Right.
Hey, how do I save versus drowning? Shit, I don't remember. Hang on, let me look that up. We say that like, oh, fuck, all right, let's look that up. Well, we've been doing it for a long time. The first time someone asks you a question you do not know the answer to, you feel very spotlight on you, sweating you,
right?
Saying, where were you the night of? It feels very interrogation. And to get past the interrogation is to say, hang on, let me look that up. The other piece I have told, so when my daughter, Lana, she's 10 and she ran her first con game at EverCon. She insisted on doing it with a game system that she made with her own rules and her own approach and everything. So I sat with her, and this is a luxury not everybody has. And I said, explain to me what you're going to do. She explained it to me. And I said, if I were you, I wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. And she said, why? I said, because I can tell you that your players are going to do this. They're going to do something crazy. You won't be able to adjust to it and so forth. So if you have an experienced game master available to you, it does not hurt to run it by them. Even if that game master is going to be in your group, a good experienced game master will say, yeah, run it by me. I will play and I will pretend that I don't know shit. I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll play the guy with no tongue, whatever it takes. But if you want to run something by me, go ahead. People will feel the need to, like, oh, I don't want to be too railroady. Oh, but I don't want to be too sandbox. Oh, I need to control. I don't want to. So it's trying to find the sweet spot. And I think the fear of failure is the biggest thing to overcome. Is you're going to run a game and you're going to have a bad one. Your first one may not be your best one, and that's okay. It's 100% okay. We've said this before on the show, but I think it's definitely worth noting that fear is like one of the biggest transitional things that stops players from becoming game masters. I could never do it because I'm not as good as you. I've heard that, which one was incredibly flattering, but two was I've been doing this for 20 plus years, dude. There's no way you're going to have 20 years experience running games until you go get 20 years experience running games. You have to do it to get experience. It's the only way it happens. You got to put time in. Excuse me. So I think one of the things that I then lean into a player like that when they say they have all these questions, they're worried, I'm not going to do a good job, whatever. One thing I tell people is if you're going to run a game, run it for people you like and who like you. My daughter ran games for...
That's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that list is pretty small, Sean. There's me and your wife. Your wife doesn't game.
And I don't have a lot of money.
But Ilana had run games for me, AJ, Connor, for her friends at school. So she had gained experience playing with people who would be forgiving of mistakes. And I think that's important. If the first time you're going to run something, I can't remember the person you listed, or their first con game was that Cthulhu game. That's a big con game step. But my assumption is that person has game mastered before, has experience. I would not encourage a brand new player the very first time to cut their teeth, never running any game ever, trying to bone up for a game and just go out there and do it at Gamehole Con right out of the gate. It would be very, very daunting. So if you have friends, remember, these are your friends. You're going to explain things to them and keep it small. You don't have to run for 8 hours. You don't have to run for 6. You don't even have to run for 4. It could go for 2 hours. You can constrain yourself to, well, you guys ate up all 3 encounters ahead. That's all I've got for tonight. Thank you for playing. Boy, we had a lot of fun. Can we do it again? You're darn right we can, but I'm out for tonight. That's totally fine. Watch. You don't have to plan the entire campaign. That's where you take a piece from DCC and say, hey, it's a small world. I start tiny and grow. So the other, I guess where I'm going from there, Sean, is players have tools and methods that make them good players, the things that they like to see. So transitioning from that side as a player, transitioning over, are there tools or methods that you think a player should keep with them when they flip and step behind the screens? Or something that they should keep in their mind saying, I learned this as a player. It works as a game master.
Well, I think one of the big ones is if you're a player and you're a fan of a particular world or whatever. So some players really read all the novels of Forgotten Realms, or they are Wayne Humfleet and love Star Wars to death. Then taking all that knowledge to the game master seat is definitely beneficial for sure. That would be a huge one.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're darn right. This is where Matt Colville has said it, and other people have said it, and Sean and I have said it before as well. If you like it, bring it to your game.
Yeah.
If you have passion about it, people will see that you like it. They'll feel it. Oh, Brett really likes Middle-earth. Wow, this is going to be this is good. Brett knows his stuff. Or, oh, wow, it's Sean in Star Wars, or it's Humfleet in Star Wars. Shit, man, I could take a seat and watch these guys drive. I think this is where a mistake might be made, and a player, possible DM, first time, may make it where they say they overdo the NPCs, they overdo their involvement because of their love and their passion for the setting. But that's a mistake you can make that you can recover from, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a damn good point, man. I like that. If you like something, a setting or whatever, go for it. Go for that.
Yeah, if you like Star Wars and you're like, maybe you don't play Star Wars and you really want to run it, I would say Star, and maybe you play D&D, but you're not sure if you want to run it. You have you like playing D&D, but you like the Star Wars world and would like to run a particular game in the Star Wars world, and you're a Star Wars buff. Man, throw it in. Pick an edition of Star Wars and roll with it.
Yeah, and I think as a player, one of the other things that you don't have to only GM the games you play.
Right.
You learned a game or two or 3 or a dozen or more, however many games you know how to play. If you learn how to play them, you can learn how to game master them. Seriously. So if you're like, look, I really like Dresden. I've been playing all sorts of games. I've never played Fate before, but I love Dresden Files. I want to run a Fate Dresden game or want a Fate Accelerated Dresden. You can totally fucking do that. You know how to learn a game system. So you could do it. You know, if you learn the game system, because I always play wizards, I always play fighters, I always play ninjas or whatever. It's taking that method that you have for learning a game system as it applies to you and do the same thing. You already know how to learn a game system. So if you want to do something new, you already got those tools if you've learned a game before. Even if all you've ever done, quote unquote, is play D&D. You mastered that game, which is not easy. You know how to play it. You can learn how to play Dungeon World. You could learn how to play it, means you can learn how to game master it. You could totally do that. I think you're the special insider knowledge and stuff. That's cool. I love that. I love that piece. I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing I think about is, as a player, when you've had those pieces, when you've helped the game master or you've helped anybody else at the table, say, oh, wouldn't it be cool when someone says, how does this happen? If you're that player who is, when you see people collaborating and so forth, if you're part of that collaboration, keep that same collaboration on the other side. Just remember, you may be the person calling for the collaboration effort across the screen. If you're good at collaboration as a player, that's awesome. Keep that toolkit, keep that method with you. You may need to tweak it here or there so that it works better for you or perhaps differently as a game master, but those collaboration skills as a player will go over really well as a game master. I have seen game masters who, quite frankly, myself, when I hadn't played in a very, 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 very long time, 10 plus years. When I come back on the other side, as I mentioned last time we talked about this, collaborating wasn't necessarily the best thing in my repertoire because I wasn't attacking it. I was attacking it from a very game master story perspective. You're coming fresh from a player side into game mastering. You know what it feels like to have a good collaboration session with your players. And when you see it happening, you're not going to stop it. You know, you can help guide it and move that around. I think that's a good skill that players have, especially your really, really good ones, that would transition really well into game mastering. Do you have anything else in that space, Sean?
Nope.
Okay. Are there any things that we think they should throw out from a player's perspective?
Well,
stupidity, foolishness.
Yeah. It could be easy to probably not spread the spotlight or have somebody that at the table, if you're not spreading the wealth or you're not, I don't want to say shutting down a character because that's not what you necessarily want to do. But I mean, yeah, I've played in games where there's one person at the table that tends to try, they either get a lot of the spotlight by what they do or the game master doesn't set them aside so other people can do things. So I think that's table management, however you want to phrase that. Just be conscious of that.
Yeah, and if you've been a player and had good table management where you feel like it's bounced around, watch, pay attention to that. How does Sean, Deb, Mary, whomever bounce it around, and take notes or see what you can do to mimic that. You'll come up with your own method and approach, and yeah, you're going to make a mistake or two, and that's not the end of the world. But that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing just to go back to what's a good thing is, as a player, you know what a plot hook looks like. Build the damn things. You know what engages your players. You know what engages you from a plot hook perspective. Build those plot hooks. If you are engaged in the plot hook, the same way you're engaged, as Sean said, about the settings and so forth, your plot hooks will be just as engaging. If it's, you could either save the mage, save the dwarf, or go to the goblin lair. What do you want to do? Those aren't very engaging. They're just options. Now, granted, a con or a certain old school gaming people, somebody's hearing that going, that's fine by fucking me. I'll just run with either one of those three, man. But you know how to build a plot hook. You know what a good one feels like, sounds like, tastes like, all that stuff. So build some. Write them down and so on. I think that's really helpful. And the other piece that I think you can kind of throw out to ship over the other side, it's kind of a keep but yet toss in a way, and I think I can get there, is as a player, if you keep copious notes and so on and so forth, it's really hard to keep uber detailed notes when you're the game master in the middle of play. It can be very difficult. As a player, the game master is giving you some diatribe about blah, 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 Brett's full of bullshit, blah, 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 more funky names. Yes, Avalon's dark and gritty. Yes, I understand. You're taking all these notes, and that's great. As a game master, it's hard to do. You may want to practice like a shorthand, a bullet point approach, something that says Sean dash character hates dwarves, Brett dash character likes dwarves, or something along those lines. Just tightening your notes. If you need better or more information afterwards, you may need to take those notes after the game session and turn them into something useful for you, because you may be like, Brett dash likes dwarves. I don't understand. What does that even mean if you wait 2 weeks or a month between sessions or whatever you happen to have? So don't be afraid to take sketchy notes at the beginning, as you're going, and then, add some meat, fill those notes out post the game session. Just don't wait too long, because you wait too long in between, you could run astray. Or if you come back and you have a note, you can also tell the group, hey, I took this note, Brett. It says your character likes dwarves. Why? Why did we write that down? You can ask them. You're not omniscient, and it's okay.
Brett like dwarves.
It's fine. You can, but seriously, you can ask that question.
Brett, do you like dwarves? Circle one, yes, no.
I don't know. Do you like dwarves? Do you like me?
Do you like dwarves? Circle one, yes, no.
You know what I'm saying, though, Sean? If you made a mistake or you come back for session 2, you can ask.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to. And that's the other piece, is that if you can ask those questions. Players ask questions all the time. What did we learn at the tower? What did we learn on the space station? What did we learn over there? I did it to Sean in the Star Wars game and other people I've played with. Is what did we learn? Okay, that was last session. Would my character remember what we learned? You can ask the same type of questions backwards across the screen. Those are totally viable.
You can.
You absolutely can.
Absolutely can.
All right, Sean, I've talked a bunch there. Is there anything else, if you were new player or new game master, wants to get into it, would you tell them to start with a certain type of game or something, or anything? What other foibles, theories, plots help?
Just like Shia LaBeouf would say,
do it. Just do it.
That's what I would say. But advice around that, get some common problems, throw them in front of the party, find out how they're going to solve them. Give them ways to solve it. So create a problem, come up with 2 or 3 ways to solve a particular problem, and let them go with it.
I think what you said there, common problem, can be pretty important, because if you have a problem that only works for 2 out of your 3 characters, you could have that one player who's like, well, it doesn't affect me.
Well, I'm not saying a problem that's class specific. I'm saying
no. I'm when you say common problems, that brings that to my mind, and it's one of those pieces where you know what a good plot hook looks like. Mm-hmm. It's one that grabs everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I like that. Yeah.
There's a problem. There's things eating the king's crop. You got to go find out what the problem is. There, very simple problem.
Yeah, superhero game. There's been a series of bank robberies. We don't know who's been doing it. There's something painted on the wall.
Somebody to stop them. Right.
Somebody figure that shit out.
Yeah, who's doing it and stop them.
Yeah.
Great. How are you going to stop them? How are you going to find out who's doing it? Then go, hey, there's a clue. Like, hey, we found this symbol and we know this, and you have these contacts. So then you start, literally just write down problem, and then underneath that, clues on how to solve the problem, and then let the players come up with their own method given what you provided, and just roll with it. they'll love it.
I think the biggest problem I've seen players have when they've transitioned to Game Master is they forget all the stuff they like as a player, well, that they know their fellow players like, and they think that it's this massive transition of brain thought and power to, either be omniscient or have a huge, mega, massive arcing plot or whatever. But I think if you're going to do it for the first time, start small. It really helps. Start small, 3 encounters, 2 sessions worth, 1 session's worth, and see how it goes. Do that a number of times. Do not be afraid. You don't have to run a campaign. You could run a series of 5 one-shots to figure it out. With the same characters. Doesn't even have to be labeled a campaign. It could be like, you are over here to solve the king's crops being eaten. You're over here to solve the fact that the bank has been robbed. You're over here to solve the fact that, the spaceship is on fire or whatever. You can do that. You don't have to have this massive continuity theme and all this other stuff that you get after years and years of game mastering. So it's hard to start, but I think if you want to do it, one of the pieces is, talk to your group, say, hey, I'd like to try it, and work with the people in your group or your friends that will be supportive. Say, I want to try it, and I don't know how this will turn out. I'm going to give it a shot. You could be self-deprecating if you want to be, or you can say, look, I got a really cool idea. I'd love it if you guys let me try this, and I think your passion for the thing you want to do will carry you a long way. All those player tools and so forth that you learned about, what you like as a player, make sure you're dishing that back across the screen. I think if you do that, you'll have a pretty decent degree of success. Yeah, you're going to fuck something up, and that's totally fine. But if you stick with that type of thing, you'll be all right in the end.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Totally be all right.
Totally all right.
You good, Sean?
I'm good. Are you good?
I think we are. I think I talked plenty. Too much, probably.
Right. Wow. Did I roll? Brett, you didn't have any this week, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm a slack ass.
Well, what are you going to do? All right. So, Goodman Games, I don't know if you saw this, Brett, they announced putting out Expedition of the Barrier Peaks.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
It's going to be their next big, huge 500 freaking page
hardcover monster. They had Keeping of Borderlands, Isle of Dread, now Expedition of Barrier Peaks. Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. Second one, Monkey Blood Designs is adding to the Midderlands and having a Kickstarter. The City of Great London. Coming February 15th with a question mark, 2019. Because, so I will have a link to his website because I don't know if he was set on when it would actually launch. But if you're a fan of the Midderlands, you may already know this, but you can get that supplement.
It's Friday the 15th March. I'm looking.
Oh, it is.
You have that
March.
down.
He said.
I reckon I'll be launching this sucker next Friday, 15th March 2019. Yep,
March 2019.
He's got a link in there. You can say, notify, and you can go to Kickstarter and say, notify me when launch and so forth.
Well, I got my month mixed up. I'm a month behind. We're in March now. Yes,
that's true.
That's like three or 4 days away from when we record this. Okay.
Glen Seal Monkey Blood does good work. Both Sean and I have some Midderlands stuff.
Yep.
So this Midderlands stuff is fun. It's cool. He's got, he even gets Edwin Aggie to do some work for him. Probably holds him down, twists his arm, and pours some gloomium down his throat. But anyway, it'll be cool. So take a look at that.
And then there was an article on Medium where a gentleman in the role-playing community sent, there's a few people in the community that sent this gentleman a few questions about how to tackle marketing your work. So he got 4 marketing professionals who offered their expertise to answer the inquiries. And so he put those in an article on Medium for you to reference. And one of them was the gentleman who did Zweihander. And he, I think, is a marketing person and never put out an RPG product ever. And Zweihander won an Ennie and probably brings in a little bit of coin for him. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So for my ranting of lack of marketing, I thought here is a Medium article that has to do with,
Zweihander moved over 90,000 copies worldwide in less than 3 years.
yeah. So there you go.
It's on Target and Walmart shelves for June of 2019.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Holy
there.
shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're right. We have ranted against the foolishness of RPG marketing. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the last one I have is Greyhawk Adventure Awaits, which is there's an article on Tribality that has a great overview of the classic setting. So if you're not familiar with Greyhawk, or it's been a long time since you've messed around in Greyhawk, which would be my case. I mean, I had the box set, but I haven't looked it over or read it or memorized it since the days of childhood. It's a very good general overview and a lot of different resources for understanding the world of Greyhawk.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like Greyhawk. That's kind of whenever I think of default D&D, I always think Greyhawk. That's just because of my age and my experience in the hobby. I don't think any other setting. That's interesting. Cool. Good article though, man. Thank you.
So there you go. That's all we have, I think, for this week.
Yeah.
What are we talking? Do you know what we're talking about next week, Brett?
No, I'm not sure. I've got a couple different thoughts and theories here. We've had some people throw out some good stuff out, so I'll hit you outside of here and we'll figure it out, man.
All right. Well, there you go. Make sure you sign up on our email list. Tell us about your actual play preference. Send us some die rolls if you want, or voicemail, or whatever it is. Tell us how you got into game mastering as a player and what you might have learned from becoming a good player to a good game master. Just tell us all kinds of stuff.
Works for me.
There you go. You're supposed to give them like one, what is it? Call to action. And I'm like giving you like 5.
Well, it's options, man.
It's options.
Plot hooks. These are plot hooks.
Yeah,
We're just
right,
throwing them
that's
out
right.
to see what we can pull in.
That's right.
We're new at this, people. Hope you like what we do.
That's right. Well, so having said that, this one is finished. This adventure comes to a close. This session. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming and BS brought to you with the help from the following BSers: Graham Minert, Corey Wynn, Andy Hall, Hawk Sparrow, Larry Hout, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, C.W. Mellencamp, Chris Steele, Ron Bishop, Thomas Hook, Wayne Humphrey, Craig, Brandon Barnes, Laramie Wall, Dan LaValle, Jason Hobbs, Sky, Roger Braslett, John Hammersley, Old School DM, Perry Besor, Michael Dinos, Jim Fitzpatrick, Christopher Gray, Bruce Cunnington, John Coward, Corey Gonzalez, Eileen Barnes, Robert Nemeth, Maurice, Niall Diamond, Angus, Howard Bishop, Stefan Dragonspawn, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Salzwedel, Trevor Davis, The Closet Gamer, Jeff Goad, Aaron Coleman, Chad Glayman, Finolf, Merkel Froelich, Lord Tentacle, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, Josh Wallace, Kevin Lovecraft, Andy Olson, and Tony Sugarloaf Baker. For ways to support the show, head over to gamingnbs.com/support-us. Thanks, BSers! This has been a Litterbox Studio production. Gaming NBS, episode 233, coming to you. Damn it. Figures.
So I think the last thing, did you happen to pick a winner for our awesome dice from last?
Yeah, it was in the last episode, Brett.
You sure?
You were there. Yeah.
No.
It was Nathan Pankey.
No, you didn't list that last time.
Yeah, I did.
Did you? Are
I
you
edited,
sure?
I edited it in.
Oh,
and
you
now,
edited it in
And now I'm
after
going to
the
have
fact.
to edit this out. So
Well, no, you leave this in. You leave this in. This makes it funnier.
Well,
Okay.
you were. I edited it in like you were there.
Oh, that's right.
That's my editing chops.
Well, now you've got something to do because
Yeah.
otherwise you'd be bored.
1840 take
Brett.
out Brett's
Brett
ignorance.
douchebaggery.
Listen,
Moving on.
like, yes, I did, Brett. No, you did. Yeah. Yes, we did, Brett. You were there.
So anyway, other than other cool things,